What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for we rushed here. We absolutely rushed here to the studio this morning after the news that Spurs have signed Wilson Odobert from Burnley.
Spoilers.
For the fee of 25 million. I mean, it is in the title. If you don't know by now, you must be sleeping under a rock. But what a turn of events. Absolutely nobody was speaking about Odobert to Spurs at all. And then this morning, it all just absolutely spiraled. And I don't really know how to feel about it at this moment in time. It's all just caught me a bit by surprise.
You get that dopamine rush of a new
I do get the dopamine rush for sure. I just have a few question marks about the signing. But I think, look, we'll get into that in a minute. I just want to show you all how it did unravel this morning. But look, we got 576 people in here with us. A big up to each and every one of you. All of you are also just dying for that transfer news, and we've got it. We've got our winger, we've got our attack, looks like, which is going to be, well, we got our winger signing. That's what we wanted. We got our striker signing, and let's see how it did unfold. So let's go over to Twitter. Sasha Tavaleri first said this morning at 10 o'clock, he says, exclusive, Wilson Odobert close to signing for Tottenham Hotspur. French winger has passed yesterday's medical test with Tottenham and wasn't at Turf Moor training today, told the deal is very imminent. And I was looking at it and I was like, really? Is Sasha Tavaleri breaking this news when nobody else knows about it? Like, we haven't even heard an inkling, and he's saying that he's already passed his medical.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on here?
Surely not. Surely it can't be that advanced without us hearing a sniff.
And then he went on to say, exclusive news now confirmed. Well, Spurs actually straight away said, we are delighted to announce that we have reached an agreement with the permanent transfer of Wilson Odobert from Burnley, subject to formalities. Then Sasha Tavaleri came back in saying, exclusive news now confirmed by Spurs account, Wilson Odobert to Spurs official.
So you can see the timings. Tavaleri tweeted at 10:05. And Spurs tweeted at 10:30.
And I was like, is this the quickest announcement Spurs have ever done in the history of the football club? It must be.
In this, I think, from literally the first rumour, 25 minutes later is an official announcement.
But the first rumour was he's already had his medical. Like, Johan Land is really working in the darkness
like Batman,
here.
this guy.
Seriously, because we heard about this from his Aston Villa days we saw last year. Aston Villa would just make 3 or 4 signings out of nowhere. And I guess we had a little bit of a taste of it, but we had been linked with Dominic Solanke before. But this one literally has come out of absolutely nowhere. Spurs did confirm that his contract's going to run until 2029, and he is going to wear the shirt number 28. I hope that's not a bad omen with Tanguy Ndombele's number. Wilson Odobert as well confirmed on Instagram that he's a Spurs player, tagging Spurs official in his bio. Paul O'Keefe says Odobert fully COYS. Ali Gold says a Friday morning surprise, a new Spurs signing. Wilson Odobert played much of last season on the wing, mostly on the left, but sometimes on the right. He can also play up front as an attacking midfielder as well. He's Burnley's youngest ever goal scorer, and he says he understands Wilson Odobert deal will cost Spurs 25 million plus potentially another 5 million in add-ons. And then Romano finally chimed in after all that. He got there in the end. He says official Spurs signed Wilson Odobert from Burnley, 19-year-old, has agreed a deal that will run until 2029 and will wear the shirt 28. And then Burnley did confirm that they say we can confirm that Wilson Odobert has joined Tottenham for an undisclosed fee. Everyone here would like to wish Wilson all the best and thank him for his efforts during his time at Turf Moor. So that is the way it all unfolded this morning.
Have we got the there we land yet?
No, we haven't got the there we land yet. We've got the there we COYS though.
There we COYS. There we go. Fully COYS.
Yeah, you can take the Twitter off screen now, but I think it's just a absolutely mad turn of events, the way it all unfolded today. But what's your kind of initial reaction? And forget about your initial reaction. If I told you at the back end of last season, we need a number 9, we need a right winger, and we're going to be signing Solanke and Odobert for, close to 100 million, would you have taken that?
Probably not at the back end of last season, but I think I appreciate what the scouting department have seen in Wilson Odobert, looking at him closely. He's actually kind of the winger we do need. He's definitely the right profile. Clearly, he's a very talented young player. He's 19 years of age. He's 20 years of age. Is he 20 or
19?
He's 19. He's going to be 20 in a couple months' time. But looking at what he did in the Premier League last season at 19 is actually really impressive. I remember, I do remember
for a Burnley side as well. Seems
Sorry.
so excited,
Yeah,
he can't get his
unbelievable.
words out.
I do remember looking at him last season and actually being kind of impressed with what he did for Burnley. I wasn't sitting here saying, "Oh, oh my God!" 1 second, I need some water.
He's proper like Anderson. What's going on?
I wasn't sitting here saying last season, "Oh my God, this guy is someone who we really need to sign," or like we definitely need him through the door. But I definitely remember watching him a few times for Burnley last season, thinking this guy is actually really handy. This guy looks sharp. He can take people on. I was watching some compilations of him just before, and what really stood out for me in the compilations was how many of those actions were against top teams. A lot of those actions were against the likes of Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, Spurs as well, a lot last season. So he's clearly one who's not scared of the opposition, not scared of the name who he's facing, and can make things happen even for a Burnley side who struggled for a lot of last season, didn't, maybe struggling for possession as well against a lot of these kind of really high quality teams, yet he's able to, when he picks up the ball, be effective, take people on and make something happen. He's clearly a very, very exciting winger. And I think from a data point of view, definitely he lines up. He definitely looks really, really good. We'll go into that in a bit. But if we're obviously, when we're comparing him to, in terms of names, to Eze, Neto, maybe even Douye. I mean, to be fair, Douye is obviously a year younger, but is there much difference in what they've done in the game, Douye and Odobert? Probably not. Albeit Douye's maybe done it or did it for Rennes in Ligue 1, but Odobert, was doing it in the Premier League for Burnley, for a relegated Burnley side, which you could argue is a lot harder. I think obviously the concerns are, does predominantly play on the left-hand side, albeit, again, when I'm watching his compilation, he does seem to do a lot of his good work from the right anyway, so he definitely looks like a role he can play.
He did only play 5 games in the Premier League as a right winger last year.
Yeah, which goes to show that he must be decent if a lot of his work in the compilations in from the right. He must have had some good games there.
In terms of what he produced last year in a Burnley shirt in the Premier League, it was 13 games as a left winger, 2 goals, 2 assists, 7 games as a centre forward, just 1 assist, and right winger 5 games and 1 goal. That's where he stacked up for last season.
Yeah, but you remember he's 19. It was his first season in the Premier League, and he's still going to be mouldable, and he's still Ange will decide where to play him. Whether he can't play on the right or not, that remains to be seen. But from what I can see, he seems quite adept at playing either side, and he seems fairly two-footed as well.
But the thing, I like him as a player, I really do, and I think he's got blistering pace, really good 1v1 dribbler. Obviously, he's got a big future in this game, but Spurs clearly wanted Pedro Neto, right, as the right winger signing going into next season. Pedro Neto is one of the best right wingers in the Premier League when he's on the pitch. Obviously, those injury problems, but that's a completely separate point to what I'm trying to make. If you're trying to sign Pedro Neto for 40 million plus skip, that was the bid that we put in. Why have we gone for a complete, an up-and-coming player now where he's 19 years of age? Why haven't we pushed the boat out again on someone that's ready-made, ready to come in and really push Brennan next season?
Because we've looked at Odobert and we've decided that he, in terms of what we're looking for from a winger, he definitely matches that. Just because he's 19 doesn't mean he's not ready to make an impact. You saw he made an impact in the Premier League last season. And yes, Neto's obviously more ready-made now, and you could argue, should we go for someone like a Bakayoko? But with Odobert, we've seen a value in the market. We've seen someone who could potentially be that kind of player in a year's time, in a year under Ange. And I think for the way Tottenham operate, I think it's a smart way of approaching things, going for the player who you think could be the next superstar rather than signing a superstar right now, in terms of how we operate in the market. Instead of spending big money on like a Bakayoko for, let's say, 60 million, who at 21 never played in the Premier League before, you spend half that on a player who's only a couple years younger than him, has shown he can perform in the Premier League, and is the kind of right profile you want as well. So obviously Bakayoko's a much better, bigger name. Obviously he's done it in Champions League football and done it for a bit longer as well than Odobert. But I can understand when you're looking at the scouting department, you're looking at what Odobert's body of work at the moment as a teenager playing in the hardest league in the world, and as well, I think going under the radar, signing a player which no one expects as well, could be a positive thing. I think that means that our scouting department are seeing value where other teams aren't seeing value, and it's about getting that next superstar, getting the player you can turn into a superstar, rather than signing a superstar right away. And I know this fan base has been burnt a few times with these kind of signings. You look back at Ng, you look back at Nkudu, you could argue these were similar kind of signings to the one we're making today. But I do think the scouting department's in a different place than it was back then, and I think they're very much geared towards getting players who we really believe are the right profile and really fit the system, rather than, I think back then it was all about, is he a young player with potential? Let's try and see if we can make it work. Whereas this time, I do really think Odobert has been carefully selected, in my opinion. He was away at the Olympics, which may be part of the reason we didn't make a move for him before now. And I think, for me, I'm not too mad about. I'm not really bothered about big names. I'm more worried about, does he fit the system? Is he the right profile of winger? And has he got a lot of, can he play the way we want him to play? Can he do what we need him to do? And I think Odobert, for looking at him, there's a really good chance he will be able to do that.
Yeah, I get that. But, we're signing so many teenagers now. We got Bergvall in there. We got Archie Gray. Now we got Mikey Moore, who we're introducing at 17 years of age. We got a lot of teenagers in this squad now. And, we moved into this stadium. We were going for Pedro Neto, which was a completely different kind of stage of the career. Pedro Neto is going into his prime now. Solanke's in his prime, so that's a great signing in itself. And I was just under the assumption that the right winger that we were going to sign is someone more ready-made, ready to come in right now and completely hit the ground running. Odobert, he might do that, but at 19 years of age, you would think he would need a bit of an adjustment period. He's not the finished article right now. And I thought we were really trying to push the boat out to get those kind of players through the door. And you look at our summer business, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, and now Odobert, all three of them are teenagers. I just feel like we might be filling the squad with too many teenagers at one time. And, Ange clearly said last season, he wants to challenge for the league this year. The first option was Pedro Neto. So I just don't understand why we're going for a completely different kind of profile. Maybe not a different profile, but a different player at the different stage of his career, when we should be going for someone of the ages of 23 plus that that can come in and be a leading star in the Premier League straight away.
Would you not have been happy with Douillet?
I would have been happy with Douillet, but again, like Douillet and Werner, again, I would probably be of the same reaction as I am now.
So if we signed Douillet, you would have the same reservations?
Yeah, if it's Douillet and someone better than Werner that can come in right now, then yeah, I'll be very happy with it. But you're looking at it now, Odobert as the young up-and-coming one, which I've got no problem with. It's the Werner one that's annoying, because if you bring in someone of Werner's age, you want him to be, top. Mm-hmm. And he's not top. So if you bring in one of that age and one of a teenage age, it just doesn't make sense for it to be Werner. Like Douillet and Odobert of the same category, like you said. And I completely agree with that. So it needs to be one young and one established, and that established player needs to be big. But because we brought in a Werner, I thought we were going to bring in another established player, and it looked like that's what we were going for, because Neto was number one choice.
Well, the plan is now Son's there. At the end of last season, I wasn't so sure that Son would have been back on the left. I wasn't sure if we were going to think of him striker. Now we think of him as a left winger. We have to back that he can get hit his top of his game, and we know how good Son is and how good he can be. So if we're looking at a top player to play left wing, we've got one there in Son. Werner's back up to him. On the right-hand side, Brennan Johnson last season got 15 goal contributions, which is pretty good. If he can improve on that, that would be amazing. And in competition with him, we've got a completely different winger now who's going to be more able to take on his man, a different kind of profile. He's going to be sharp, he's going to be exciting, and I think he's got a potential to even be better than Brennan Johnson potentially on that side as well, competing there. So I think I'm starting to, in terms of the profile of wingers we got and the kind of wingers we got competing, I kind of like it, and I'm not mad signing a young player, because I'm looking at wingers right now around Europe. A lot of them are very young and are really exciting. I think one of the best things you can have as a winger to make you really effective is that fearlessness, that confidence to take people on, and that comes with a lot of young wingers. Teenagers who believe they can take on the world. I only have to look at the Euros right now to see what young wingers are doing in the game. You know, Lamine Yamal scoring goals in semi-finals of European Championships at 16 years of age. I think you look. For me, age doesn't really make a difference. And not only that, we've seen what he can do in the Premier League. We've seen, obviously, you know, he wasn't, you know, blowing everyone out of the water, but you remember he's playing for a Burnley side who finished 19th or 18th in the league last season, who really struggled. Yet he actually did really well himself, and he was able to overcome those difficulties his team were having to actually have a pretty good season for a 19-year-old in his first season in the Premier League after coming from Troyes in League One. So I think this is I can see why Tottenham are really interested in him. And I can understand why the scouting department have looked at that and think this is actually a pretty good bet, because he actually does stack up really well on the data. And the data isn't from the Championship. This is data from him performing in the Premier League, and he's performing really well. Most dribbles for a teenager, I think, in Europe's top 5 leagues. I think he's in the top 5 in the Premier League last season. He had the most dribbles out of any teenager as well. And we needed someone who was really good with the ball at his feet and dribbling as well. Yes, he's not going to be a name to get the bums off seats like a Neto, Eze, or a Bakayoko or someone like that. Someone who's a big name who comes in for big money and is not in a statement signing. But it could be a smart signing, and it could be a signing that could be just as effective.
Yeah, could be. That's all it is. It could be. I mean, I know he performed well in the Premier League last season, and I enjoyed watching him play. I really did. And he is a winger of the profile which we need. But another thing that I have a problem with this signing is that he is a natural left-sided player. So now in the squad, you're looking at it, we got Son, Werner and Odobert, who are natural left-sided players, and we got Brennan Johnson, who's a natural right-sided player. Why didn't we sign a natural right-sided player for the right wing?
Yeah, that's obviously my biggest reservation, is the fact that he predominantly plays on the left when we have 2 of those already. But he can play on the right, and I've seen he can do a lot of good work on the right, and Ange does like playing right-footers on the right-hand side as well. He doesn't mind playing right-footers on their strong side, and he does look a bit two-footed as well. So he can use both feet. So I think he can cut inside and use his weaker foot. So I do think he's probably going to be predominantly playing off the right, unless the plan is to move one of Son or Werner to the right, which I don't think it is. I do think both of those players really need to be on the left. From what I can see of Odobert, he's obviously he looks like more natural on the left, but he looks like he can still do a really good job off the right, and maybe he can be developed in that front. So we'll have to wait and see what Ange's plans for him. But I think he is a player who can be effective off the right, from what I can see. And he's a player who can go both ways. He can go inside and outside, which is really crucial. Which is actually, when I'm looking at profiles, in terms of someone similar to Neto, in terms of can play both sides and can go inside and out on both sides, I mean, Odobert is in a rare category.
I mean, look, regardless what I think, regardless what you guys think out there, regardless what Sim thinks, I think the main point is that Ange Postecoglou has final say on transfers, and we've brought in Wilson Odobert, so we need to back the guy now. I'm happy. I mean, he is an exciting player. He's a very exciting player to have, so I think he's a player that will get bums off seats once we're in the stadium. It just when you're going for someone like Pedro Neto, it's just a bit underwhelming when you bring in someone with a name like Wilson Odobert. But look,
You were against Neto.
I was against Neto, but obviously Neto, I also said Neto is probably the best winger and best suited to the profile that we have. But obviously the injury problems were the thing that swayed me away. But in terms of profile of player, that's exactly what we need.
But he's also, so apart from his age, you know, in terms of what he brings to the team, I think profile-wise he really fits it.
But we've only seen Odobert do it for one season. We've seen Neto do it year in, year out.
Yeah, Neto's obviously more proven, and, you know, he's probably a better player. He's definitely a better player right now than Odobert. But Odobert doesn't have the injury record, and he's doing it for a inferior team, and he's younger as well. And I think wingers at this kind of age is a really good age to bring them in as well, actually, because you can mould them a bit, you can get them playing exactly how you want them to, and they have that, as I say, this fearlessness, which I think players who, when they get older, may sometimes lose a bit. Like, for example, like like comparing himself like Chiesa, like I would much rather, I think, someone like Odobert than Chiesa, in my opinion, right now for this team. I think it's a much more exciting signing. And
Would you have said that at the back end of last season before we signed Odobert? I don't think you would have.
In terms of, like, for example, Douye, I was much rather in favour of signing someone like Douye than Chiesa, someone who's younger, fresher, someone who is sharper right now, can really take people on. And I think I put Odobert in a similar category in terms of someone who's very young, performed at a good level in a top league, and in terms of profile is really the kind of profile we want. And look, people like Douye, people like Nusa. I said when I wanted a winger, obviously I wanted a marquee signing, but I think at the back end of last season I was saying I also really want a winger who's young, like either late teens or early 20s, who's really direct and is really fresh as well. I was saying that, and Odobert wasn't on my list, but I'm looking into him now, and I think he really fits that bill.
Yeah, you also said that you wanted Neto as your number one signing going into this season.
Yeah.
So Neto and
no, I never said he was my number one, but I did want him.
You did.
Yeah. No,
you said you really wanted Neto to come in.
I did really want Neto to come in.
Who was your number one then?
My number one for the winger position, I think probably Bakayoko. And then I said Neto for the right price. Eze I really wanted. Douye I really wanted. So these are players who I'm looking at, thinking they could really fit the bill for us. But I think maybe Odobert was being overlooked.
I think regardless, like I keep saying, like regardless of my feelings towards the transfer, like I do think he's a really good player. I do think he'll fit the system. I do think he will actually be good for us. But I just wanted someone more ready-made to come in right now. And if this is the signing that Ange really wants, and he thinks that he can take us up to the next level and really impact the team next season, then I'm all for it. I really am. As much as, you guys might think I'm coming across as a bit negative towards the signing, I'm going to back it completely, and I do think he's going to be an exciting player, and he will get a lot of bums off seats at the lane this season.
Exactly. and I'm really happy again. We've followed the data. We've looked at the value in the market, and we've gone for a player we really believe could really fit what we need to do. And we spent 30 million on him, and it could be a really smart piece of business. And I think that's what we need to do where we are as a club right now. I think these are really smart pieces of business that are going to really set us up for the future. And I think Odobert is a really, really exciting winger, in my opinion.
So, yeah, that is it. Spurs have signed Wilson Odobert for £25 million plus potential £5 in bonuses.